I don't know if you guys have ever watched a Draw My Life video, but basically it's where a person will sit down on a whiteboard and draw out their life and the important events that have happened in their past to make them who they are today. Now I'm going to be doing this, but instead of drawing my life, I'm going to draw this little guy right here and his life story. Also, please excuse my drawings. I'm not an artist, but I'm trying my best here. This is Fred, and you just saw him a couple seconds ago, but let's go more in depth on who he is. Fred is very involved in sports and academics, and he's always constantly getting medals for what he does. He excels in soccer and football, and I'm really sorry because that soccer ball and football are actually pretty ugly right there. So Fred has a really loving family. He's the only child between his mother and his father, but despite that, they all get along really well. I would like to say their family is pretty well off because they get to travel to numerous different countries during the summer. But overall, they're just really happy. Fred had a couple of really close friends too, and they all hung out together and laughed, and they went to the same school, and everything was good. Fred was always the happiest out of all of them. On October 4th, Fred was having his 12th birthday, and no, he wasn't hit on his 12th birthday like my finger flicked him. But he did have his 12th birthday, and all his friends and family came to visit, and they all gave him gifts, and they celebrated. But there was this one special gift, and it was in a little red box, and his parents gave it to him. It's right there. Just in case you didn't see the box well enough, here's a close-up version of it. Inside this gift given to Fred by his mother was a beautiful bright blue Nintendo DS, which from this point on becomes the center of his life. Fred loved this DS so much that he would bring it everywhere he went. It was always attached to his side, or to his fingers. A really bad addiction started to form to this device. Because he used this DS so much, he tended to spend hours upon hours isolating himself in his room as his homework just piled up and piled up. This led to problems in his social life. When he was hanging out with his friends, he no longer felt like he connected with them, and it was difficult for him to read their emotions. It was no longer easy for him to bond with them, so eventually, one by one, all of his friends just started falling away until he was left all alone. Fred began to accumulate more and more of these electronic devices to the point where his entire room was just filled with them. All of them just started adding up, and it eventually made him no longer the happy person he once was. As he continued to play games and use his electronic devices, his parents started noticing behavioral changes inside of Fred, especially when he played games with a male avatar. He'd get more upset. He started taking that anger out on the people around him. Fred was no longer the person he was before, and he was no longer happy. After a while, Fred's parents started to worry about him and wanted to get him in for help, but Fred just didn't care and didn't pay attention. After 5 years, Fred's addiction started to worsen and his habits worsened, and he became obese and had heart problems, and life was just going downhill for him. At this point, all Fred could do was look back at his memories and see all the good times he had as a child and just think back to what it would have been like if he wouldn't have been attached to those electronic devices that he had. Now, it is true that gamers can become great surgeons when they're older. However, it's really rare for that to happen, and for Fred, that wasn't the case. What Fred could do, though, was set up a schedule for him and limit the amount of time he spends on electronic devices. And I'm really sorry my head showed up in there. It wasn't supposed to be there. Now imagine what Fred's life would have been if he would have just created that schedule from the start.